Welcome back to the EVLC Podcast. Today we have Ben Parker, CPO and co-founder of Lightship RV. Thank you so much for being here today.
Or Stephanie. Nice to be here with you.
Could you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. You want to start with me first? All right. Um, yeah, let's see. I'm a total EV nut and electrification nerd. I live in California now, in the San Francisco Bay Area. I grew up a few thousand miles away from here on the East Coast. Uh, I grew up in kind of a strange, although wonderful place called Nantucket Island off the coast of Cape Cod in Massachusetts. Dad and Grandpa were both innkeepers there, so I'm the son of an innkeeper from a, a, a pretty interesting, kind of historically interesting place. I loved and still love cars growing up, and I would um, don't follow in my footsteps here, but I would occasionally skip like biology class, for instance, to stay down in the auto shop in my high school, working on teachers' cars and my own first car, a 1999 Audi A4, uh, which I loved. It was like my baby, and I kept working on cars all through college. I went to Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. I totally fell in love with the school because it was in this really great kind of rural, more natural environment up in Hanover, New Hampshire, and also because they have a Formula student racing team there. It's a Formula hybrid race team. Formula student, for anybody who's not familiar with it, is this really cool activity and competition that a lot of universities set up student teams around. It consists of teams of anywhere from 20 to 100 students designing and building race cars, small single-seater Formula style race cars for competition against each other. And so I did that all through college, led the team the second half of my years in college, and learned an incredible amount about how to build a really complicated vehicle and also to lead a team around it. Learn a lot about fundraising too through that, because the uh the the alumni are very generous, but you do need to raise a fair amount of money as a student team to pull off building a new race car every couple of years. And so that love of cars and then building performance vehicles in school took me out to California first for a few internships at Tesla when I was still in college, and then right as I graduated, I took a full-time job at Tesla. I'd been working in batteries as an intern in battery technology, so sort of lab scale battery development, and then moved over to battery product design when I took the full-time job there. I was a mechanical engineer, worked on um, for about I was there for about 5 years in total after school, probably 2015 to 2020 timeframe, and spent maybe two-thirds of that time working on the Model 3 program, and in particular as a battery design engineer, working to first kind of bring the concept for the Model 3 to reality. There had never been a high volume mass market EV produced at that point, and then to figure out how actually to build it. So I spent a few years, along with first tens then hundreds then thousands of people at the first gigafactory that Tesla set up in the Reno, Nevada area. And it's a time in Tesla's history that's been called production hell a few times, because we really struggled at the outset to get the vehicle kind of stably into production. Ultimately did so. And so after about 3 or 3.5 years working on the Model 3, I came back to Tesla's headquarters in California, in Palo Alto. Um, Started working on the next generation battery design at that point, and which was ultimately to go into the Cybertruck. Um, and at the same time started uh, well, cooking up and sort of fell into the idea for Lightship as well, which I'm happy to tell you more about.
Yeah, so like when did you leave Tesla and start this company?
Well, I say cooking the idea up as an accidental pun. Uh, I originally had this pet project while I was still at Tesla where I wanted to electrify all of the food trucks in the Bay Area.
Wow.
Um, there's a rotating circuit of them that uh, come to Tesla's headquarters every week, and I loved eating at these food trucks. The only thing I didn't like was yelling over the generator to put in, uh, to put in my food order because they all have a generator running all day to keep their operation going, and it kind of um, it felt so ironic to me that there were these generators running the trucks in the parking lot, and then on the other side of the wall, inside of Tesla's buildings, there were prototype power walls and all of these cool energy products that I knew could be was technology that could be used to electrify these trucks. And so um, yeah, I took it upon myself to try to advance that idea or that project of electrifying food trucks, and did that for maybe 9 or 10 months. And I would tell people about the project, and very frequently RVs would come up in conversation as well because there are similar needs between electrifying a food truck and running all the appliances on board and doing the same with something like an RV. Uh, I was really intrigued by the idea. I'd always loved road tripping and the outdoors, although I hadn't done a lot of RVing growing up because I grew up on this island out to sea, where you can't really do much of a road trip on a 5 by 10 mile island. And so looked into RVing more, got really excited by the scale of the industry. It's a huge pastime in America. You probably know this already. What you may not know that amazingly about 10% of the country owns an RV. One in 10 American families has an RV. So this is a very, very big way that a lot of Americans love getting into the outdoors and going on road trips. And so I love the potential for impact that existed there because it's such a um, just a sort of um, a broadly engaged pastime. And uh, really the final or the turning point for me was right as the pandemic started, and we all went into lockdown. I'd been thinking about this food truck and then RV idea for a while. I hadn't met my co-founder Toby, who himself had been at Tesla for 5 or 6 years, although a different generation. He was a previous generation and was a finance leader there. But unbeknownst to each other, both of us had been thinking about what the next wave of electrification would look like, in ground transportation in particular, because that's what we both loved working on. And so I sort of took that moment as the world changed to reevaluate where my life and career were going. Decided to leave Tesla. That first summer, you remember, it was summer of 2020. I rented a huge Winnebago motorhome, and I road tripped it all around the American West for about 6,000 miles. Lived out of it, met a bunch of other RVers on the road, and was really getting into the lifestyle of it, and learning a lot from from those other RVers about what electrification would mean for the way that they engage with the pastime. And basically, long story short, I came back from this long road trip having incorporated the company from the road somewhere near uh, Horseshoe Bend or the Grand Canyon, and was really, really excited about how much I had loved what I had just done, and also how great the potential for change and um, sort of like positive movement in the industry, and in particular through the electrification angle was. Um, and so started working on our first prototype at that point. Now it's the fall of 2020. Um, and a few months later met Toby, my the other half of the business partnership. And we hit it off really well. Um, I've been working on kind of pulling together a pitch for the company. The two of us workshopped it together, we went out and started raising some money because we knew at that point that okay, Lightship is going to be America's first all electric RV manufacturer, and we'll do ground up vehicle design and manufacturing here in the States. We knew that was going to be a pretty big endeavor and one that would take a lot of capital to get off the ground, and so we needed to go raise some money to fund the business. So we did that. Raised a few $1 million at that point, started building out the core team of the company, and that was about 3 years ago. And so the company has grown quite a bit since then. We've since raised more money to help us keep building on the ambitions of Lightship, and we're now a few over 80 people strong. We're about half in California, half in Colorado. We do more product development in the Bay Area, and then operations and production are in Colorado. Toby sits in Colorado. I sit in the Bay Area, although we're back and forth all the time. And we have folks moving between the two locations frequently. And we are going to production with our first product, which we call the L1. It's our flagship kind of family-sized travel trailer built for the electric age, and that's just now a couple months away that we will have our first kind of production grade units ready for show, and so the world is about to see a lot more from Lightship.
That's so cool. It seems like it went by so fast. The company progressed really fast.
Yeah, yeah. No, we've it's kind of hard to it's hard to come up for air when you're down in the details every day working on building something like this. But whenever we do get a moment to surface and kind of survey how much we've done already, it's amazing to me. We're doing it. We're doing the thing.
Yep. Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Probably a part of me always has. I mentioned my dad and grandpa, both small businessmen, doing innkeeping. We have the same on my mom's side of the family, and so I grew up I grew up working in small businesses as well, and sort of um loved that work and learned a lot in those environments. And so I would say there's some maybe I got a little bit of entrepreneurial spirit from that. I think I think entrepreneurship also finds you when you find an area of need that you want to work on, and that came to me through this food truck and then RVing project where I'd been loosely looking for something big to work on, but the idea or the problem space I think needs to find you as well. And yeah, at that point I was inspired to act.
So looking back, did you ever think you would get to where you are right now?
Nope. We have a long way to go. We're not even in production yet, although we're close. But no, it's amazing to me. I think we've already had a pretty big impact on at least the conversations that are happening in the outdoor travel and RV space, and that's gratifying to me. And so yeah, no, it's all kind of amazing. I can't wait to take Toby and I, both of us can't wait to take our first camping trip in a production built Lightship. That's gonna be an amazing moment to and one of those moments I think to step back, like I was saying, and see just how much we've already accomplished.
Hmm. Yeah. What challenges did you face throughout your journey?
Numerous. Um, yeah, I mean one thing that's kind of funny I'm remembering back to really early on is that when when you raise a little bit of money behind a good idea or what seems like a good idea, you think that it'll be relatively easy to recruit people to start building that idea, and that's not necessarily the case. If you're going after some, especially in a space like the EV space, if you're going after um, some of the best people and most talented people in that space, they have a lot of options, and you have to you have to make a really compelling case to them for why this is the most pressing or one of the most pressing issues to go work on, or most pressing problem to solve. Um, so that was a yeah, that was a funny early on challenge. Was just recruiting those first few people. Let's say the first 4 to 6 people took months and months, like 8, 9 months. Almost. It was a lot of groundwork getting that done. I would say managing the complexity of a product like the one that we're building now is quite challenging too. It's we're talking about a few thousand unique parts that need to go into every vehicle, and just a design that um, has to you have to iterate on, and must evolve pretty quickly to get to the point of maturity that you need it to be in as short a time as a fledgling startup needs that to happen. Um, and so kind of building up some of the internal systems and processes that allow us to manage that complexity, the complexity of being a fairly vertically integrated vehicle manufacturer, um, has is it definitely presents challenges. I would say also, if building a company like this, you're doing everything for the first time, and so you're having to figure out what are your processes, what are the ways that teams need to collaborate together. Change is ever present, um, and so you're having to do the work of um, executing on the company mission, and in particular building what the company is set out to in a short time frame, but you're also building a company
Mhm.
at the same time, and you're having to do those two things at once every day, and it um we 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 rely on the excellence and experience of our leaders, and everybody who has joined Lightship um, to manage through the sort of daily ambiguity, and um, figure out the structures that we need to have in place to do this quickly and efficiently enough to be successful.
Yeah.
Because certainly as a startup, you're until you're stably and profitably in revenue, you're living on borrowed time.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like giving up?
No, not really. No.
Oh, how
I think
come? Like, what made you keep going?
I think I don't know. I just don't think it's not really an option, right? Like the moment that you decide, I think you can always know that failure is always a possibility, but the moment that you make it an option is the moment that you increase the likelihood of it
Yeah.
happening. And so um, there's a I have found, this is just my personal experience, you sort of need to keep up some level of self-delusion, balanced with pragmatism. You know that, for instance, failure is a possibility, but you have to continually self-delude, uh, within reason, uh, to stay optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
think I think there's a strong element when you're building something new of trying to manifest and communicate first to yourself, kind of figure out what your story is, and then to broader and broader groups of people, what needs to happen. Because if you don't know what needs to happen, and you don't kind of repeat that daily, then it's inevitable that it will not happen. So you kind
yeah.
of have to be almost almost closed-minded on, like, this is what must happen, and failure is not an option that we keep on the table.
Mhm. What's been the most surprising part of your journey with Lightship so far?
The most surprising part. Um, it's a good question. What has been surprising? It's been pretty amazing to see public reactions to what we're building, because you don't really know what the public response to something new will be when you put it out there for the first time. What's particularly amazing to me is that we launched the company publicly at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas last year. This is kind of a music and tech focused uh, conference or festival, arts as well. And yeah, the public reception has been amazing. And it's, I know we opened up a reservation bank so we have people who are putting down their reservations to get their production slot, to get their space in the queue for when they will get their Lightship. Um, and seeing the level of kind of fervor around it, and how excited people are by the ideas that we're turning into a reality with a product that they can purchase and own is amazing. Like I've talked to people who have watched almost every video and every piece of content that we've put out. They have like detailed knowledge of what we're building, and you can tell are just are really really excited by and are kind of making life plans around the story of the business and our offering to them. Um, and that's amazing to me. Like the fact that people are planning these, off grid properties on farmland, and like totally changing their lifestyle in some cases to make use of something like a Lightship is incredible to me.
Yeah. What would you say are some lessons you've learned throughout building the whole company and your journey so far?
Um, well, I think the further you get, the more you realize, the less you know,
Yeah.
along the way. And yeah, so I would say I think I've become a better listener over time and through doing this, and really knowing when somebody on your team says something to you, when to react and to go a little deeper or ask more questions. Um, I think it's one thing that's interesting is um, early on my ambitions for Lightship were a little smaller, and it was actually very very challenging to uh, to raise money for the business, or to really get it off the ground. And then in broadening the ambitions of the business to be a ground up vehicle manufacturer, which seems like the crazier thing to do, it actually became much easier in some ways to get people really excited about and get them behind the idea. So maybe the lesson there is that in some ways it's easier to get a business going when there's a lot of when you have a lot of great ambition for it, because you can build momentum behind that exciting set of ideas, and so you sort of want to aim high, and not don't keep your ambitions too small at the outset, because that'll be harder to build momentum behind. Um, those are certainly a few. I've learned a lot about commercial real estate. How do I, how do this these these manufacturing businesses, of course, require a lot of space, and particular types of buildings to run out of. So I've gotten a bunch of niche knowledge about, yeah, for instance, commercial real estate in the SF Bay area. Um, I've learned a lot. Learned a lot. I definitely know quite a bit more than I did 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm a different person. I'm different in my work and how I think about my work now than even a few years ago. It's been a great journey. Not without stress. I'll
Yeah.
admit. Definitely there are stressful days for sure.
So, what's next for Lightship after the L1?
Oh man. Well, in some ways I can give you some thoughts. It's kind of hard to look past the L1 because while we have done all of this hard work to generate a lot of excitement and early commercial traction behind the product, and to do the really hard work of designing and engineering and building a production grade or production intent vehicle. In some ways the hardest part, even for L1, is still ahead of us to successfully take it into production that we can scale to meet the demand of the program is going to be really hard. It's really hard. It's kind of like the valley of death for a lot of early stage EV companies or just vehicle companies in general, going from um, pre-production to stable volume production because there's just so much cash risk there's so much operational risk in uh getting to that next phase of the business. So that's all ahead of us. It'll be a solid year at least of fighting the good fight to get the vehicle into production, make sure that our early customers are having great experiences with the L1, and that we're kind of telling the story of the company and the brand that we're building well and broadly to keep getting recognition behind what we're doing. We want this to be like an expanding balloon. After that, of course, we have a few more products in our mind's eye and on the way. We our first product L1 is it's like I said, it's a flagship product. It's about a 26-foot trailer, a conventional, what you'd call a bumper pull style travel trailer. It's a very unique version of a travel trailer. I don't know if you've looked into it much, but it's this very, aerodynamic, all electric, modern looking trailer. It looks like nothing else on the road. The whole roof is covered in solar. We put a battery and an EV motor in the floor of the trailer, and that motor can actually help the trailer propel itself so that the truck that's pulling it doesn't feel all the weight of the trailer and thus does not lose range or if you're towing with a conventional truck, MPGs. So we think that's a huge deal to sort of solve the towing range issue, especially for all these EV trucks that are coming out. And the interior design is just totally modern and unique, and I think really attractive to a lot of people. So that's the starting point, is that flagship product. We know that like I said, trailering is a huge pastime. It's one in 10 families in this country, and probably it's the industry and the pastime is double as big globally as it is just here in North America. There's a lot of diversity in how people um, uh, sort of practice the RV lifestyle, and so we're going to make different products, different form factors, different sizes, different designs, to meet people meet their needs, meet the needs of different people who like to go RVing in different ways, and um, so that you'll see factor into our future products. Of course, we also recognize that we're starting at a pretty low volume and fairly high price point product, and so our successive products are going to be available at more accessible price points too, so that we can keep getting more and more people into Lightships. We'll also offer different ways to experience or use a Lightship over time too. So there's sort of a lot of business model innovation that we're working on as well, and we'll say a bunch more about that next year. So yeah, I'd say the future is looking pretty interesting for us, um, and yet we have to maintain 95% of our focus on just the main challenge that's right ahead of us, because if we don't um, successfully take L1 into sustainable production, then those next things, L2, L3, the broader experience that we can build around the vehicles and themselves, can't exist. So gotta take first things first.
Yeah, well, I'm so excited to see where this all goes in
Thanks.
Lightship in like the next 5 years or so.
Yeah, me
um,
too. Hopefully we can get you a to go out on a camping trip in a Lightship
we do
soon.
love camping, so that would be
Do you?
so cool.
Okay, nice.
Okay, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, hmm, that's a good question. I think I'm actually this is maybe not quite uh advice to my younger self, but I'm happy that I'm happy that I got pretty specific and um did something kind of specialized or to start off my career. Um because I think it's it's in some ways easier to start in a career in a really targeted way and then broaden over time. So that's more maybe that's more advice than uh that's not as much advice to my younger self, but I'm glad that I took that approach, whether or not I knew what I was I was doing. Um, I would say, yeah, I think the intuition is a powerful thing, and so in some ways, maybe or in my 20s, let's say I tended to sort of overanalyze things and take a while with decisions, and I might tell myself now to um be more decisive, act quicker, and go trust my gut
Yeah.
a bit more. Um, yeah, and I think maybe it's a little bit to the point that I was making earlier around how it's easier to get momentum behind a big idea than it is a more narrow or a smaller idea. Um, I would I would tell myself to aim big, aim as big as I could because it's um yeah, it's remarkable um when you have a big idea that gets you excited and it's something that you want to start working on, if it is right for the world, if the timing is right and the need is there, uh, people will rally around you and that idea. I would also I would probably tell myself to finish that German minor that I started. Yeah, I was like one class short. I should have finished it off. I had a chance to live in Germany for about what 6 months when I was working at Tesla because Tesla had bought a German machine building company and I got to go and live and work at that machine building company because I had studied and almost got the minor in college. So I still got some of the the immersion experience that I'd wanted, but I should have just finished it off.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Okay. Well, I have one last question.
Yeah, what's
How
that?
are you how are you making a positive impact in the world?
Oh, um, well, I think hopefully it comes across. I feel like I'm living a dream of mine in some ways right now. It's kind of a life hack to get to work on um to work on a really fun a fun product in a fun space like this. I think I mean some of the impact that I hope to have is to advance the conversation around the electrification of vehicles um and even more broadly there there's the idea of the electrification of everything, and would love to help advance that conversation, especially here in the States, because I think um, it's such an important piece of us having a cleaner and in a lot of ways simpler energy economy, and it really impacts just um, how each of us individually as consumers live, consume, and sort of what are the emissions behind those things. Um, I'd love one thing that I love about working in the electrification of RVs and bring more of a conversation around sustainability to the camping and RVing space is that I think it really is it's sort of it's a new frontier for the electrification and sustainability conversations. Of course, it makes perfect sense that you'd talk about sustainability and conservation and preservation of our natural spaces in the camping environment, but there's still a lot of very very carbon intensive products and ways of camping out there, and so wanted to bring more of that conversation to this space, and I think also to bring um, some of these ideas to just a broader cross section of America as well. And I think one thing is kind of an adjacent thought, but one thing that I really love about the camping space is that we live, I'm sure, uh, you've heard the comment that we live in a very politically polarized time in this country, and yet um, camping is one of those last bastions of people of all stripes, all political backgrounds getting together and getting to know each other, enjoy each other's company, and yeah, have some fun together. And it's a pretty low stakes environment to do something like that. And so I love that I'm getting to um, work on electrification and making for uh, a lower carbon footprint way to go RV camping in a space that is or in an environment that really affects the whole of America and not just a narrow cross section, because I think that's what needs to happen if electrification um, is really going to be impactful in America. It can't be a highly charged, or no pun, but it can't be a politicized issue. It's got to be broad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and for taking the time to be on our podcast today.
Of course. Awesome questions. This is a fun conversation. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you so much.